What if I told you that Ferrari could be hiding the biggest revolution in Formula One? In the most simple part of the car? Because while everyone is obsessed with the visible changes of 2026, there is something much deeper going unnoticed. A design that seems basic, but that could redefine how single-seaters work from the ground up. And this is where it all gets disturbing. Why has Ferrari decided to simplify its front wing when the rest of the world is looking to make it more complex? Mistake or masterstroke? What you are about to discover is not just an innovation. It is a change in philosophy that could leave the entire grid behind. And this is where the scandal begins to take real shape. Because while other teams are probably looking for more visible, more complex, and more immediate solutions, Ferrari is playing the long game. You are building a development platform. A base that not only works today but also allows them to evolve faster than the rest as they better understand the behavior of the car on the track. Furthermore, the detail of the adjustment system on the front flaps further reinforces this idea. By placing the control near the ends, Ferrari can modify the load very specifically in critical areas of the car, adjusting cornering behavior without compromising the central flow that feeds the bottom. This is not just engineering, it is pure strategy. And if you connect all these dots, you start to see the pattern. Ferrari is not looking to be the fastest from the first race. It is looking to be the team that best understands the new regulations. And in a season where everyone is practically starting from scratch, that difference can be devastating. That is why this design is generating such an impact, because it is not an isolated solution. It is the first piece of a completely different approach. One that, if it works, will not only change Ferrari's performance, it could force the rest of the grid to rethink its entire aerodynamic concept. Now is where everything becomes much more serious. Because if in the previous act we understood the philosophy behind the SF-26 front wing, at this point we begin to see the real consequences of that decision. And this is where many within the paddock begin to really worry. Because this design is not designed to shine in a single lap. It is designed to dominate the behavior of the car in any situation. And that, in modern Formula One, is even more valuable than pure downforce. Ferrari's concept revolves around something that has historically been extremely difficult to achieve: a wide operating window. That is, a car that does not depend on perfect conditions to perform. And the front wing is the first key piece to achieve this. By generating a clean, stable, and predictable flow from the start, Ferrari is eliminating one of the biggest variables in performance: aerodynamic sensitivity. And this has a brutal domino effect. Because when the flow reaching the ground is consistent, the entire aerodynamic system begins to work more efficiently. The bottom generates load more stably, the car's balance becomes more predictable, and most importantly, drivers can push the limit further without fear of the car suddenly changing its behavior. Now, here comes the part that turns this into a real technical scandal. Ferrari isn't just controlling the flow, it's controlling how that flow evolves throughout the car. And that means they have the ability to fine-tune aerodynamic behavior with a precision that other teams might not have. The flap system, strategically located in the external area, allows the load to be modified without altering the core of the central flow. Translated to track, they can adjust the car for slow, medium, or fast corners without breaking the overall balance. And if there is something that defines champion cars, it is precisely that. But this doesn't end here. There is another element that fits perfectly with this philosophy and that many are completely overlooking: the geometry of the front suspension. Ferrari has configured a system with a very marked anti-dive, which means that the car maintains a much more stable platform under braking. And why is this so important? Because the biggest enemy of modern aerodynamics is the constant change in height and angle of the car. Every braking, every acceleration, every weight transfer alters the flow. But if you can stabilize that platform, all the front wing and groundwork remains consistent. And this is where everything fits together like a perfect puzzle. The front spoiler cleans the flow. The suspension keeps the platform stable. The floor maximizes that clean flow. This is not an isolated piece, it is a complete system. And now understand this, because it is key. If Ferrari has got this concept right, it will not only have a competitive car, it will have a car that is much easier to evolve than the rest. While other teams will struggle to understand why their performance changes from track to track, Ferrari could have a much more solid foundation on which to build improvements. And in a new regulation, the pace of development is everything. That is why this scandal is not in what we see today, but in what could happen in a few months. Because if this concept works, it will force all teams to rethink their aerodynamic approach from the ground up. And that, in the middle of the season, is practically impossible to do without losing performance. But here comes the big question. the one that really defines this entire analysis. Has Ferrari been too conservative, or is it several steps ahead of the rest? Because if this approach does not generate enough load compared to its rivals, they could fall behind in the short term. But if they manage to compensate with efficiency and stability, we could be seeing the beginning of a new era in Formula One. And now we reach the point where everything is decided, where this supposed scandal stops being an interesting theory and becomes a reality that can change the order of Formula One. Because after analyzing the philosophy, after understanding the system, there is a conclusion that begins to gain strength within the paddock. Ferrari is not playing the same game as the rest. The SF-26, with this front wing concept, is not designed to win a one-time battle. It is designed to win the development war. And this is what's really scary. Because if there is something that defines the new 2026 regulations, it is uncertainty. Nobody has a clear reference, nobody knows exactly what the limit is, and in that chaos, the team that finds a stable base first will have an exponential advantage over the others. And Ferrari, with this approach, seems to have understood that better than anyone. The front spoiler, which seemed the least spectacular part of the car, becomes the origin of everything. A stability generator, a turbulence filter, a flow controller that feeds every centimeter of the car. And this is where the impact becomes brutal. Because if this concept works as Ferrari hopes, not only will they have a consistent car, they will have a car that improves faster than the rest. Each update will be more predictable, each change more effective, each adjustment more precise. While other teams will try to correct problems, Ferrari could simply be evolving on a solid foundation. And in Formula One, that is devastating. But there is something even more important. Something that transforms this case into a real turning point that if Ferrari proves that this approach is correct, the rest of the teams will not have time to react. Changing an entire aerodynamic philosophy is not a matter of weeks, it is a matter of seasons. And that means SF-26 could set a trend that defines the entire 2026 era. Now, there is also the other side of the coin. Because this concept is so different, so dependent on the overall efficiency of the car, that if it fails in one key point, the entire system can collapse. If the ground does not respond as expected, if the flow does not remain clean in real conditions, if the correlation between simulation and track is not perfect, Ferrari could be left without that initial charge that others will have. And then, this whole approach would go from being brilliant to an enormous risk. But here is the final key, the one that defines this entire analysis. Ferrari has decided to take a risk. He has not followed the easy path. He has not copied concepts. He has not sought immediate solutions. You have built an idea, a philosophy, a complete system designed to dominate the future, not the present. And that's exactly what makes this front spoiler such a scandal. Not because it's illegal, not because it's flashy, but because it could be the first step towards a new Formula One. One where the key is not who generates the most load, but who understands the flow best. And if that is confirmed, we won't just be talking about an innovative design. We will be talking about the moment when Ferrari changed the rules of the game. And after everything we have analyzed, the conclusion is as clear as it is disturbing. Ferrari has not simply created a different front wing. It has built the starting point of a new philosophy within Formula One. One that does not seek to impress at first glance, but to dominate from the invisible, from absolute control of flow, stability, and the ability to evolve. Because the real scandal was never in whether the design was radical or not, but in what it represents. A change of mentality in a category that for years has pursued immediate downforce, even at the cost of consistency. Ferrari has decided to do the opposite, sacrifice the obvious to win what is essential. And that changes everything. If this concept works, we will not only see a competitive Ferrari, we will see a Ferrari that improves faster, that understands its car better, and that can adapt to any scenario more easily than its rivals. And in a completely new regulation where every detail counts, that advantage can become dominance. But there is also a reality that cannot be ignored. This approach leaves no room for error. It all depends on the system working as a perfect whole. If a single piece fails, the entire concept loses meaning. And that's where the line between genius and failure is defined. That is why we are facing one of the most important moments of this new era. Because it's not just a front wing, it's a total bet of a vision that can redefine Formula One, or become one of the riskiest decisions in recent years. And now the final question is inevitable. Are we seeing the birth of the next dominant era, or Ferrari's biggest technical risk in decades?